Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Design Meetup 2.0 powered by IDF Kerala and co-sponsored by Experion Technologies. In the design world, research is one of the most fascinating and the most powerful term. Most of us are always had queries about it like what is research? What is the role of research in design, especially in the area of user experience? What are the research methods and what are the tools we can use to collect some data? Why and when we should use it, etc. Correct? I would like to introduce today's presenter who believes good design is usable, simple, and attractive. In order to create a good design, it requires a fine balance of user empathy, usability, aesthetics, and a deep understanding of user. With 9 plus years of experience hands on UX and leading strategy and production of tidy, thorough UX deliverables, we have Mr. Aju George, user experience lead at Experion Technologies, to share some valuable insights on research methods. A recorded version of this webinar will be available in our YouTube channel. We would love to hear from you. Please raise your queries in the comment section. Although we have an exclusive Q&A session after the webinar where the audience can interact and discuss. For those of you just joining us, welcome. All right. I hope all of us are ready to dive into the world of research methods while sipping our drink. Without taking much more time, I'm handing over the mic to Aju.
Before getting into the topic, I would like to explain through a day-to-day example. So we all do research while we buying any product, anything like a mobile phone or a car or a bike, etc. I would like to consider one example, buying a bike. How we decide to purchase that product or any kind of a bike or any product. So before we getting into deciding a bike, we go through a lot of things. We take a lot of opinions. We go to understand a lot of reviews before we take a decision. Let's look at a couple of points how we take a decision before we buying a bike. We fix a budget first, then we look at different models of bikes in a different brands which will be under my budget. And same time sometimes we check the mileage also. The other parameters like the engine power, maybe the cost of the service, and we also check a lot of reviews in YouTube and in motor websites also. And we also take opinions from friends and family and from our colleagues too. Then we go for a test drive to understand or to feel how the riding comfort of the bike. Once we've done all these things, then only we get into a decision which bike we need to buy. Right. Let's look into what is user research. If you look at the digital world, the users is the key success of any brand or any product or of any company. Let's see a couple of the companies in our market like Myntra, Flipkart, Uber, Olo, and recently the CredUp. See how they become successful. We all know that how what they are trying to solve our problems. So through solving the problem, they become the unicorns and the one of the bigger companies in Indian market. So let's see what is user experience. It's a method of studying the target users, which including their needs, their behavior, experience, motivations, and their pain points. So once we learn these points, once we learn the users and their context, we get a larger insights to work with to make the best experience in order to solve the user's problem. So it stays like that. If you want to solve a problem, so if you want to solve a certain user's problem, first we need to learn about the users. Otherwise, we cannot define a good product for the users. How we achieve this through understanding the problem and finding design opportunities by applying various methods. We will look these methods in the coming slides. Why it is so important? So I like to flip the other side of the previous example. Let's see how the bike manufacturing company found the needs of the customer, right? So we can see a lot of different variations of different models in the market. So how they come up with these models? Okay, so we can see a Hero Honda Splendor, a Honda Unicorn, then a KTM, so on. So these all cater a different groups of users and their needs. In the same way, if you take the digital world, in order to design an experience with user in mind, we need to conduct research that tells us who is the person, in what context they would use a product, and what they need from the product. So in order to define a better experience, we have to know all these points. Then only we will come into a conclusion, okay, this feature will work with this user, or these type of designs will be work for the users. It also helps us to validate or invalidate our assumptions. In order to validate, we need to talk to the users actually, or we have to know what actually user wants. Then only we can validate the, so we can apply user research in various level of the project, and deciding what type of research is based on the nature of the project also. Sometimes these insights helps the company to exceed the customer needs and their expectations, because we have large data of insights about the users and their needs. So sometimes what happens, we can design a better product. What will happen if we don't do a user research, or if we skip user research? So in most of our works, we usually skip the user research due to certain circumstance, like maybe a budget, maybe the time constraints, or sometimes we will always hear that, okay, we know the users, you just build the product. Then what will happen in these cases? Mostly it results in futuristics decisions that are driven by a technical possibilities and not filtered by a user goals. What it states, before, without doing all these things, we actually build a hundreds of features, and we try to design the features for the users, but really we don't know whether this feature is needed for the user or not. It is virtually impossible to know what needs and pain points our product or service should address. We cannot assume that, okay, these are the pain points or these are the needs users want that, and we cannot build a product in that basis. We have to know first the users, why they coming for buying our product, and what is their motivation behind this, what drives them to do this, what's the reason for them to use this product. All these things we need to know. Otherwise, what we actually doing it, we just list down a lot of features which we also don't know whether it fits for the user actually. So it ultimately leads to the negative consequence, which is not benefits for the success of the company nor the product. At the same time, users also, it build friction or confusion to the potential users. So sometimes I have a good feature, but it's difficult to use by the user. So what happens is that time user will maybe first install my app, or first they use my product, and they find another product and they start using it. So ultimately what happening, my product is nobody is using it, so I'm losing customers actually, the potential customers. So in order to avoid all these things, what we have to do, we have to do a proper user research, and the same time we have to validate all these things, our findings, our assumptions, our design decisions at different stages. We have to test with the user at different stages. So mostly user research is divided into two methods or two type of research. One is quantitative, the other one is qualitative. Discussed about one example, how we buy a bike or how we decide to go with a certain bike. So we gone through a lot of points. Let's take all the points and put it in this two boxes. What will happen? So first we take the quantitative research. So what all come in the quantitative research from the previous example? The things like mileage, the engine performance, the price points, and different bike models of bikes, cost of service. Let's see what will fall under qualitative research. The test drives, opinion from friends and family, the driving comfort of different bikes, etc. Let's go through a little more deeper. What is quantitative research? The term itself defines the meaning of quantitative. It is a process of collecting and analyzing numerical data. It's all about data, numerical data, where we can count or we can measure the data. So such type of research methods is called quantitative research. Let's look back our bike scenario. Mileage. We can measure and we can count actually. So see the price points of different bikes. These all are measurable things. So that's why we kept it quantitative research. So this type of research helps us to collect large sample size of data to identify trends and patterns. So I would like to take you through some couple of real-time scenarios which we normally use it. Like what is the bounce rate of a page views, what's the percentage of users engaged in a page, what time taken to complete a particular task, what percentage of users clicked on a particular CTA. So these all comes under quantitative research because we can count all these measurements or we can count all these data. Typical simple example, like most of the data comes from our Google Analytics. We all implement Google Analytics in our websites, in our product. So we actually go to Google Analytics and we look all these data, right, to understand the performance of our website. Let's look at what is qualitative research. Here, actually what we are doing is here, we are engaging with the users directly and trying to understand their behavior, feelings, attitude, emotion, etc. and their mental models. The insights which we gather can be an observation. Here the thing, we cannot capture the numbers alone. We cannot do a math calculation on these kind of data. In shortly, I can say it covers all the why part, like why the user interested or buying this particular product from the website. Or another example, like why users are interested in a particular feature or a product. So I would like to take an example over here by connecting to that points in order to validate this statement. So just imagine an e-commerce website. So from the home page to the product listing page, I have lot of data. Just take one data like the page views. So I have a huge page view between the home page and the product listing page, but nobody brought the product. I have X number of page view from these two pages, but I didn't got any sales in my product listing page. Nobody brought any product from my website. So I understand from the other data, I had a huge traffic in my website, but nobody is buying the product. So if I want to identify why people are not buying it, I use a qualitative method to understand the users, what they are observing in the website. Maybe they might not understand the images of the product, or they might not connected with their needs actually. So a lot of factors are there. So we have to do a qualitative research to understand why the user is not bought the product. So that's why it states that in order to understand the user or their pain points or the problems which we want to solve, we sometimes use both the researchers. Then only we can find out the reasons why the user is not brought any product from my website, but we have a huge traffic in the website. So let's look at some of the major methods that comes under both the research. There are more in this list. I just took a couple of here. It's commonly we use it in our design process. Due to the short time, it is difficult to explain all the methods today. We can have a detailed section about these methods later on. Okay, focus groups. So let's look at one of the commonly used qualitative research method. It's also known as user group. Sometimes some people call it like user groups or focus groups. First of all, you might be wondering what is a focus group. In short, I can say focus group is essentially a discussion on a certain product guided by us as designers and attended by a potential users, sometimes stakeholders or team members or industrial experts or pretty much anyone else that can offer a feedback. it's all about a collective discussion. Normally, we conduct these discussions before a product launch to gather insights that can be implemented in the product, understand and collect the insights about that market, maybe about the users, maybe what the business want to achieve from this product. All these information we can collect through a focus group discussion. Sometime we can do the focus group discussions after the product launch also, in order to find out what all aspects or what all area we have to improve in the product. Now you may wondering why focus groups is important. To understand an issue at a deeper level, we need to have a focus group discussion. Other point, like sometimes we can gather user opinions, ideas, beliefs on a product or a topic. It also can be used when we have no knowledge or little knowledge about a target market, an upcoming market, or just imagine autonomous vehicle industry. So we are just going to design certain product or the dashboard of the car. So sometimes we don't know about the autonomous industry and the automobile industry. So we can have a focus group discussion to learn very deeply about the topic actually. In order to gathering the feedbacks from the users about the product, most of us have done these kind of techniques, like a product demonstration. We sometimes do a product demonstration to the customer before it launch. We do a demonstration, we do a usability testing, user interviews, group surveys, and design critics. So these all we sometimes, most times we do it before a product launch, all the or after a product launch. So instead of doing this individually and for time saving, what we can do is we can combine all these techniques into our focus group activity. So we can have a focus group discussion, and we can cover all these aspects in the over there, all these techniques over there. Like saves a lot of time, right? Because we don't need to do it everything at the individual level. So it helps the companies to collect larger data in a shorter time actually. So that's why we are grouping these techniques and we conduct this under a focus group discussion. So like Steve Jobs stated, it's really hard to design products by user groups. A lot of times people don't know what they want until you show it to them. That's a true thing. So what's the reason behind this statement? It's normally what we see is that what people say and what people do are often very different. It's like sometimes we are conducting the user group discussions. There is a high chance where participants may influence each other's opinion and preference. So that is one of the drawback of the focus group discussions. That's why this statement is key. We should always avoid open-ended questions. If we ask more specific and a right question to the audience or to the participants, we will get a honest critical feedback from the participants. So it is very important when we are asking a question. It's very important to be very careful while preparing the questionnaire for conducting the focus groups. So when you do focus group discussions, we first need to define for what purpose we are doing the discussions. What is the outcome of the discussions? So based out of that, we have to define the questions. Okay, let's look at another method. It's called usability testing, which we commonly used in the design process. We normally use this usability testing before launching the product, or even before the development starts actually. So it can, and some of this data can fall under in the two type of research, qualitative and quantitative research. So that's why I just kept it very separately from that list. Let's look at what is usability testing. We use usability testing to see how easy to use an interface or a feature by testing it with the target real users. So this activity we actually doing it with the real users. It's not about we are go and collect some data from somewhere or not. We collect all data with the user actually, with the help of the user. So it's a test we do it with the real customers. So here we ask users to complete a task, and we observe them in order to see where they encounter a problem or experience a confusion. In a simple way, it means this only. It's a method we use to evaluate how easy a product to use actually. So our main objective is to find what our observations and what decision we take it and what we designed and build it, whether is usable to the users or not. So I like to take some of the example, like we just go back to again to that e-commerce example. So just imagine a user want to just take a, we're just going to do a usability testing. Okay. So the task is like find a white shirt under at 42 size. And we give this task to couple of users to perform in our website. And we observe how they find that shirt actually with 42 size. Okay. So they might can find directly, they can search in the search box of the website by typing white shirt. Then they land into a listing page where they can put size as a filter, or I can go to the menu, find men, top wear, shirt. Then I can click on the filter, change the color to white and size to 42. So all these type of way user can find the product. So when we do usability testing, we observe them how they find out the shirt. Some of the advantages of the usability testings are it gives a feedback directly from the user. While doing the usability testing, we get the feedback of the user how they use that product. One another point is like internal debates can be solved by testing the issues to see how user react to the different opinions or different options. Like we discussed earlier, the user can find dash out to two ways. One is from the menu, one is from the search. Just imagine there is a debate came that we suppose a 50-50 chance come to these two options. We can do a usability test and we can test two options in a better way. So we can observe which way the user is more comfortable and we can redefine that feature in a better way to for serve the customer. So usability testing we can use for finding major issues and problems before the product launch. So it reduces the risk of building the wrong experience in the product. Like before it goes to the market or before it goes for the development, we can what we can do, we can redefine the product actually in a better way where users can use it. For performing a usability testing, we normally follow four steps actually. To create a test plan, like the test plan which we previously discussed, by a white shirt of 42 size. Facilitate the test. We have to find the which all the users based on their based on our persona. We have to look at the persona and we have to find the right users for that. Analyze the data from the test. The data like while they do the test, what all questions they ask to us, how much time they took to find that shirt, how many clicks they have done, where is their mouse pointer, where the eye movement happen. So all these parameters we can collect and we can analyze it and then create the test report. So here also it is very important how we create the test plan and how we do the test actually. So we can do test sometime in two way. Either we can call the customers to our office and we can facilitate over there. On certain points we have to go to the user's place or user's context and we have to do the user testing. As designers, we are not the users. It is very important to understand another person's experience and feelings from their own views. So when we do user research, we should be very neutral. We don't put our thoughts into the research. We never put our previous experience or our beliefs or our thinking or our own way of using that particular same product. Don't put these thoughts into when we do the user research. We have to be in the shoes of users. Then only we can find out the proper insights actually, like what the user wants, how they work with the product, their feelings, their beliefs, their mental model, etc. So it's very much important when we do a user research. Thank you all for your valuable time. I'm handing over to the Rima.
So this is the time for Q&A.
So this is
I would like to the participants to raise your comments, raise your questions, or start a discussion point more about this.
Aju, just to start, probably I have a small question.
sure, Jinsan.
So, first of all, thanks for the like defining the baby steps or the foundation of user research and where we can accommodate that. So, usually, like in a normal scenario, the timeline of the project would be very tight. Normal scenario.
Correct.
So, so how can we like sometimes it will be very difficult to do a detailed research or so most of the customers come and ask like, so we need the designs tomorrow, or we need something, the output should be there by tomorrow. So it's a difficult or tricky scenario. So um, uh, to address that, can you like touch upon a few like basic understanding on the like the primary and the secondary research methods? So probably that will help
Correct.
everyone in the core. Just a few sentences that would be good.
Yeah. So this situations most of us face in most of the projects actually. Like 90% of project we have these issues. So here I am just suggesting we can go for a secondary method of research to find out the uh, like informations, because we can go to online to find out the previous research and findings from the internet about the same problem. So just imagine, take an example of when we are building a new e-commerce product. So we already have a lot of products in the market and a lot of articles. We also find out why we have to design the filter like this way, how we have to design a product listing page, how we can how to design a menu. So there are a lot of findings we can find out from the internet itself, which helps us to define our product. So we actually don't need to go, in this case we don't need to go to do a primary type of research and like end-to-end research in the market. So we can basically take these informations and we can draft our own product experience actually. And might we can do a quick usability testing, and we can find out okay whether it works or not. Yeah, you can add your points into this one, Jinsan.
Like what you said, like so if we have no enough time to do the primary research method, like doing the research by our own from the scratch, probably we can adopt or take a similar experience or similar research documents or the data available elsewhere, not just from the internet. Probably we can so from a previous project, probably if you have done something, probably we can take that data and build something on that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very useful. That's a secondary method we can opt and we can build on that. Yeah. Alexis, I think your mic is on mute, Alexis. Probably you can ask the question directly. Alexis.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah.
Thank you for this presentation. It's very nice and well done. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
My question is about B2B markets. It's not
Okay.
so easy like B2C market, please. It's like you are working to give a produce to all a company. It's not one user, specific user. And a lot of person will decide to buy the product. Maybe the head of a company, the real user, the IT user sometime. So there are a lot of person, a lot of profit of user who will come to you to buy the product. So how
Correct.
we can focus on this case? And in the same way, the second question is the same, like the same, but there's small difference between the question. The second one is about. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello.
carry on,
Yeah.
Alexis.
Yeah. Okay. I have issues here in my computer. Okay.
Yeah.
So in the same way, the second question is about how you can create the first demo or the first product to for demo without use it the user experience. I don't think that is possible, but I want to know how it's possible.
Look, yeah,
Alexis, I think there were two questions, right? One is how do you do the research for a B2B product, right? Which is
Yeah,
mostly you are building a product and you are selling that to a different company, right?
yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
And the second question is like, you are going to build a new product, and or how we can ensure that product will be successful in the first demo itself, right?
No, is he said that in his logical,
Uh-huh.
like we will start by a demo. We will start by a demo produce. We will start getting experience from user by a demo produce. So my question
uh,
is how we can go to this demo produce. We will make first the user experience. We are using the user experience for the first produce, for the demo produce. How we can build it without use the user experience.
okay. Alexis, I will just clear this question. So I think you are talking about the focus group, right? How the
Yeah,
focus group discussions with the product demonstrations, right? So this is actually, so where we actually doing it. So we do all our research and we come up with a solution, right? Then we
okay.
design product, correct? So once we design the product, so suppose you are, we are not much confident in that product and we want to know a little bit about the product, whether this product will be correctly addressing the our target users or our business actually. So what we can do is we can call one of, like, take the IT itself, right? So I already have a couple of clients actually. So I am doing a business, I have a product already and I'm doing business with certain companies. So I made a second version of that product, and before launching into the market or before I releasing a new update into the market, what I can do is I can call a confident one or two clients and I can do a demonstration of this product to them. So then I can validate whether my understanding and my design decisions are right with that customers or not. Okay, so that's where we actually do a product demonstration before launching the product actually. So even if you have a product, you have a product idea and you designed a product by understanding certain user problems from the market, you design it, but you, before you investing a huge amount into building that product, what you can take is you can do a product demonstration actually. So if you see the Buffer app actually came into the market with a product, but they never developed that product. But they validated with the users to understand the need of that product. Once they realize that, okay, we can invest money on that product, then only they build the buffer actually. So they never call the users into a place and done this one. What they done it, they made a small website and they made a small video explaining about that product with the UI of that product, and they publish it in the internet, and they done some marketing top of that website, and then they sit back and they looked at it, what users are talking about this product. So then users start, like, they are interested in product, so they call the customers directly and they started talking to the customer why you shows an interest on this product. So, so that's why also we can validate our findings actually before investing a huge amount into developing a product. So that's the point actually I kept it like product demonstration in the focus group.
And Alexis, just to
Alexis?
mention about your first question, like the B2B product. So the approaches or the research methods we need to pick for an enterprise level application is different, and consumer application is different. So, but but one thing probably you need to consider is like end of the day, if it is a consumer application or an enterprise application, end of the day it's a user going to use, and that's a human being, right? So probably we need to think when we design or build something, think from a human being perspective and the person who is going to use the product. So and for an enterprise application, probably one approach would I suggest like the contextual inquiry before building the application. Probably you can visit the place, visit the enterprise or the factory, or where the actual users are using, or how they are doing the process. And based on the analysis, you can come back and define your workflow, user journeys, and all for that product.
Hi, Aju.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you. So I would like to know about the UX information architecture process. Okay, so how it differs from the products to services. See, if I am going to develop a product or I am going to develop a services, how the information architecture process differs from each other.
So you're saying when I designing a product and when I designing a service, how the information architecture is different, right?
Yeah, how can we identify the goals for the information architecture?
Okay. So before we get, Jinsan, yeah.
Yeah, Aju, probably can.
No, Jinsan, you can answer this question.
Okay. Yeah. So, so I forgot your name.
My name is Shanoj.
Shanoj. So, Shanoj, information architecture is a process which comes like after building a design strategy for that product.
Okay.
So it's a step in the design process which comes far probably after 2 or 3 steps after this research methodologies we spoke. Like research is basically we are trying to gather more information, understand the user. Then based on that we are building the strategy with the company or the business goal. We are building strategy. Then after that, one of the approaches is the building the information architecture for the product or the service we are going to build, right?
Okay.
To create that architecture, we need all the information from our research. That data is the input for your creating the architecture. So if it is a service company, probably the research or the data we receive will be completely different. For a service company, that will be different. For a product, that will be different. So based on that, we need to create the information architecture. So it's a completely different step, but it's a huge topic as well. And there is one more question I can see on the chat board, like in the context of pandemic, how we can do the UX research methods. So anyone want to answer or share their views on that? It's a very, very generic question.
I think we can only do a remote.
Yeah, so remote is one approach we can easily
do it right now. Yeah.
So any other approaches or any probable solutions in the audience? Anyone can suggest? Probably can unmute your mic and speak.
User interviews.
User interviews basically remotely, right? And surveys probably. So Vandana, I think the only possible method we can think of at the moment is like all these research methods which are possible on a remote way. Probably we can conduct in this particular scenario. That's the only thing probably I can think of at this moment.
Joe, can I ask something?
Yeah, sure.
So when we ask somebody a question, Most of the times what happens is that the brain steps in. I mean, it's a loaded thing, they want to sound smart and things like that. So most of the time, the answer, at least in my experience, lies in between the lines. I mean, we have to read what we want from how they talk, what they are not talking about, things like that, or the way they are responding to some questions and not the other questions. And we have to be nimble enough to ask, catch those cues and ask other questions rather than a prepared set of questionnaire. Uh, so how do you? So it is basically a factor of a hunch, right? Our gut instinct, and whether to follow it or not follow it. So what is your take on that?
So can you just define a little bit about this question, Sharath? What I understand is while we do a user interview, so sometimes the smart users will be take over the discussions, right? Or they pull this discussion into a different direction. How we will take it back, right? This is your question, right, Sharath?
Yeah, part of that is that other times is that, I mean, most of the times, just take the example of what you mentioned about the bikes. Most of the times buying a bike is not about the specs or the company or anything else. It's about the hard decision, right? And from what I understand is that probably not the IT wise users, but other users, the general public, they are not really weighing in the other options and deciding a product. They are following some kind of a gut instinct while deciding to use a product or not deciding to use it. There are gray areas, right? So you have to decide upon and follow our hunch.
Okay, Sharath, I just yeah. So you just talk that example. Actually, just give a picture. Actually, how we do a research actually in order to come to a conclusion to buy something. So the same, if you look at in a different angle, we also doing the same thing as user research to in order to understand the user and their needs in order to sell our product, right? So that's why we are ultimately doing the user research. The end of all this process or end of this product is we have to sell it to the customer. The customer has to love the product and they have to use it, the product, right? So to getting these informations from the user, when we suppose if we are doing a user interview, we have to be very clear what kind of questions we first asking. So we have to, that's why I mentioned that don't ask the open-ended questions. So when we throw a open-ended questions, the problem is the answers can be diverted into a different angle. So we have to be very crisp in the question. So instead of like asking, do you use Facebook? Okay. So when we ask this question, the answers might be very different actually. So instead of using in that way, we can maybe like simply we can say maybe like this way. What is the most feature you liked in the Facebook? Okay. So asking the question like, do you use like Facebook, or do you like the Facebook, or what you do in the Facebook? Instead of that, we can frame the question in a different way, like what feature you liked in the Facebook.
Yeah.
So the thought of the user will go in that direction. If you give me an open forum to discuss anything which I like, then I started talking about that actually. So if you ask me which is the most used feature you in the Facebook, then I might have only one or two answers for that.
Okay. So of my question is also that, so do you are you of the opinion that we should keep our questionnaire nimble enough to suit the user as the to keep it specific or to keep it really focused on the user. So rather than a really tight knitted questionnaire, are you of the opinion that we should keep it a little bit nimble enough to suit the user also as the discussion progresses?
Correct. So before we build the questionnaire in order to do the user interview, we have to first set the objective of that user interview. So first we have to decide why I am going to do this user interview, what output I actually want from that users, okay, from the participants. So first we have to define that actually. Once we define that, what is our objective, what is our end goal of this user interview, once we define that, what we can do is we can create the questionnaires which is very focused towards what we want to achieve actually. So then we can get the inputs from the user in a right way. Otherwise, this goes to a bias level actually.
Sharad, just to add to what Aju has mentioned. So the preparing question is very, very tricky. And that's one of the core aspects we need to focus before conducting all these kind of researches and the usability testing as well. So if you are asking a wrong question, probably the entire activity you are going to conduct will spoil. So we need to ensure we have the right questions. That's one of the key steps when we do all these kind of research methods. The people to whom we are discussing, they should be very comfortable answering the questions, and it should be very generic. We will be taking input from the answers they are giving, plus their body languages, their emotions probably we'll capture during this interview process. It's not just an answer they are giving.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's very tricky area. Like creating the question is one of the key foundation. So that's something we need to focus very well.
Chintan, I would like to add one thing to what is said. I think while we work on a field which is very much related to medical, the questions could be very sensitive. That could actually make the user not answer as well. So, especially working with a medical project, users might be finding it difficult or tends to give a wrong answer if the question is very sensitive. This one small so let's say we find user survey as one of the easiest and most beneficial way of getting an answer from a user group, and let's say if you get a vote of 50% to 50% ratio on answers, how do you conclude to a final answer? Like, would you go further into research or do a quantitative research, or you get into a final answer? How do you proceed from there?
So I think we can take this 50-50 and we can look at our rest of the findings, and sometime we can find a connection actually. Like if you take quantitative data and we can sometimes compare it with the this type of 50-50 answers actually. We can go for a small validation with that data actually, whether it's matching or not. So in this way also we can take a decision.
Yes.
Yeah. Jinsan.
I think in that case, pretty much our vote could actually be, I mean, based on the research, we could actually reach out to a final answer. I mean, it's up to you to make a decision, right? I mean,
correct.
Because pretty much the answer is almost same, as well as the results could be wouldn't make much difference. So I think it's better to arrive at our own answer.
Correct. Yeah.
In most of the scenarios, we will be able to find a pattern between all these things. Anirudh, I think from a qualitative and quantitative data. So so that is a one thing Aju was mentioning in one of his slide. it's a mix of these two is required. So there will be some pattern we can clearly see. The 50-50, I'm not sure whether that will be a scenario. 50-50 would be very rare. That is what I think. But still there will be some patterns we can derive from the.
Or in that case, we can do a quick prototype and we can do a test on that actually.
Yes, A/B testing.
Prototype.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly. Or do a usability testing to identify the pattern actually.
Yes.
Hey, Aju and Jinson, hi, this is Arun. A very nice session indeed. Thank you for that. So one quick question is like, one quick question is like, do you think data analytics, predictive analytics, and all would become a part of user experience at any point, user research at any point of time, UX research?
I don't know. It's a very interesting question. Or the decisions for a user experience should be based on the data we have. That is one foundation thing trending at this moment. That's really true. Actually, there should be a valid data to make a decision in terms of experience. It's not the user experience is not just an art. It's a science also. So
the quantitative research becomes part of. I mean, like data analytics becomes a part of the quantitative research, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So in that case, then probably I don't know if it was mentioned earlier. One question from Vandana was like how to approach UX research during the pandemic, right? So maybe one way to get apart from getting this getting the user information from the users through talks like Zoom call or through chat talks, we can also make use of the data that is already available with the system, right? Say for example, if you're trying to revamp an existing model of, let's say, a theme park or something like that, then maybe one of the approaches would be like to collect the existing data. I mean, especially when it is during the time of COVID, right? You will not be able to go to the park or anywhere and make a study out of it. So one approach would be to probably get the existing data and then understand the data and then create stories out of it. I mean, that could be one way to, right?
Correct. So that is what Aju was mentioning, like the remote research. So even what you have correctly pointed, like, so people are doing the usability test over Zoom call or Skype call. That's also possible. Like that is possible, and the data we receive is worth considering, other than like starting without any data.
We sometimes look the sales data of the company to understand which the product is selling more in the market actually.
So, that's right.
Yeah. This
so
is
if
also.
You have, so I was just saying, so if you have some sort of analytics implemented in the solution that is already available,
exactly,
then,
we look into it.
We can look at it and then see which part is trending much, and then we can get insights out of it.
Yeah, so the tools which like GA, Mixpanel, Your Story, we use all these tools to capture the data of the customer, and we look at later point of view all these data actually, the funnel rate, all these things.
Okay.
I have a question. Maybe two questions, please, Alexis. The first question is, if you already had a produce who is not introduced to the market, but the food produce you very build, how can you use this methodology to maybe test your produce and get a new customer for this produce? Is the first question. And the same question, I want to ask how you can improve the difficult market, like say the difficult enterprise, where the manager is old man or they don't want focus to transformation. We already had this one in a little area. A person who don't want some change, who is closing something but to have a need. How we can work it?
Jinson, you got the question?
I missed the first part, but the second area probably I think how we can pitch into an enterprise where the manager or the seniors in this organization is not keen on the user experience, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So
That's the main problem here, in the market where it's very mentioned, communication.
correct. So probably only thing what we can try is like probably we can try to educate that person if that is possible. We can of course try and educate the value of design or the experience while using a good product. So that is one area probably we can do. And the second thing would be like if the company is not at all focused on the experience of the user, probably like we can clearly assume that that company won't be succeeding in further, right? In a near future. So they will definitely going to fail because there won't be any user to use that product, right?
Correct. I would like to answer one point into Jensen, what you mentioned. We can, one simple thing we can do a computer analysis of the company, the computer product or the computer company, and how their product will perform in the market. And we can collect the data. We can show to the manager, okay, if you're not applying UX, okay, these are your computer companies are doing and how they're acquiring the new customers. So that way we can do is. Second, we can do certain presentations by, if you improve certain things in the product, what all value you get it from there. So you have to see if your manager is a Excel sheet guy who looks only the financial number, we can depict the presentation in that way. Like if you change the experience of this feature, or if you improvise this, you can increase the revenue at this much. It's a prediction actually. So that way also we can convince the top management if they are not interested completely into the UX.
That's a good point, Aju. Yeah. So we can try convincing that people with the data, like you are doing this, you will get this, else what will happen?
Hi, I'm Vandana. So I come from a non-design background. I used to work in mortgage, and then I did a UX design course, which was up to the prototyping part of it. So when you apply for jobs, I think they insist on the UI, skills as well. So do you think it's necessary to have that, or are there enough job opportunities just for from the user research to the prototyping part of UX?
Yeah, it's there. So a lot of companies hiring only UX researchers. So what you said is right. In most cases, the designer need to have a balanced knowledge of both the thing, like research, the UX and the UI part of it. But a lot of companies are there in Indian market who hires only researchers actually. So their job profile is to do the research. They don't do the wireframing or prototyping. They try to understand the users and their problems, and they create the reports, and they create all reports based on their findings, and they send it to the UX team and the product team to build the features or change the experience or build a new experience. So even in a lot of companies are there, people do just the UX part, take this data and they build the product and they do the wireframing and they send it to the UI design team.
But just,
I think Jensen can add more into it.
Vandana, it's a very common question we see from people, like mostly from students, and even some companies, like rightly as you said, like most of the company does not have a clear job description for a user experience designer. So they are also confused, like what exactly user experience design is, what is UI design is. So from my experience or my understanding, I can say that these are two different job as such. and you require two different skill set to do the job of a user experience designer and to do a job of a UI designer. Continue the learning, you will definitely get a right job somewhere as a UX designer itself.
Jinsen, just to add to what you said, this UX, right? Again, like this is a common misconception again, right? So UX is basically divided into three parts. From what I've read long time ago, it actually comprises of, I believe, design as one of its element. There is research involved. I've seen UX researchers. Then there are strategists also involved inside UX. So these are like three different branches coming under UX, and UX is a bigger umbrella. And within UX, right, if you look at design part of it, there are designers who are like visual designers, like Jinsen mentioned. There are UI designers. Then there are architects who play with what's it called, prototyping, mapping, and then there are different visual designers who actually does graphic designs using one of the tools that we have. Then there is this wide group called research, which comprises of the user research. Then we take up ergonomics, human factors, all the stuff that comes under user research. And then there is strategy also, right? Then there is this customer experience that comes under strategy. So if you decide to become a part of UX team, and again, UX, like I think somebody has mentioned this already. When it comes to UX, UX is not just getting that visual part of it out in the picture. It's about starting the inception of the product altogether, the idea, till the end where you push it to the largest or to the smaller audience using the A/B testing, which was mentioned by Anirudh in between, and then getting the feedback and starting the whole thing again, right? So it starts from all this and it goes all the way to the end of the product and then it starts again. So in all this sphere, then there are like a lot of things that is involved, which includes research, design, and strategy. So it's up to us. If you're part of, I would like to say that if you want to become a part of UX, you can actually decide if you want to become a part of the design team or the research team or the strategic team. Or if you want, you can become a little bit of everything if you want to. So it's like, I just thought I should add that also.
Actually, one more profile is coming up in the market, like UX writers.
UX writers, yes.
Yeah. Because the content is very important in UX actually.
Right. UX writer actually belongs to the design part again, right? You have to write. It's an extension of. I don't know. It's like I've got friends from Oracle and all who are like UX writers alone, and they won't do anything like design or design creations or prototyping or anything. They are just UX writers.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I think mostly when I look for opportunities, they also ask for coding. It's like they want you to do UI, UX, coding. So then I actually even worry about applying because I don't have any experience at all. So this question comes more from a place of self-doubt because I am trying to make this shift in industry at 36. So I think, so thank you for answering that.
I think it's time for us to wind up today's session. I would like to thank each and everyone who took their valuable time from a busy day to attend this webinar. And a special thanks to those participants, Alex, Jinsen, Shanoj, Vandana, Sharad, Anirudh, and Arun. Pardon me if I missed out some names, who actively participated in the QA session. We just touched the tip of research method. If you would like to go to more details, please write to us. We would like to come back with another webinar on that. We are available on social medias like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram at IDF Kerala. You can also write us at idfkerala@hotmail.com. We have an exclusive IDF Kerala community in Interaction Design Foundation website also. Hope we will meet all of you next week at the same time with another webinar. Have a great evening ahead. Thank you.